All right, so we have ourselves a public call going on. So if you can just remember to stay off names and places, I would
Yes.
appreciate that. And I'm all ears. If you want to tell me how I can best help, do you want to start by reading your message?
Well, actually, I don't, because the situation has changed. My message was quite long to you and probably overly detailed, but let me. So since I wrote it a couple of days ago, and I wrote part of it, and my wife wrote the other part, giving her perspective, and since then we had some really awesome heart-to-heart discussions, and I think fantastic results. I guess I would say her letter was kind of a Rosetta Stone to me, letting me better understand, her view of the world. And so, I guess it's changed dramatically, optimistically, everything like that. But, we still have an issue we wanted to focus on, that maybe you could help us out with if you don't mind.
Of course, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, let me give you a little bit of background, so that it makes more sense. So I recently learned that I have a lot of autistic traits, and I don't know if you want me to go into details on how I learned that or anything. Um,
I don't know. It's your story, so I'm happy to hear.
okay, so basically, um, I was listening to a podcast that I regularly do called Dave's Garage, and he's like a former Microsoft employee that's real nerdy and goes into all these, technical details on computers and stuff. And he went off on this story about this conversation with him and his wife that, I mean, I just laughed at, because it was the exact same kind of conversation that me and my wife have. But when you hear it from a third party, it just sounds, a little ridiculous. And so it turns out he wrote a book on autism, people on the spectrum, and talking about his life experiences. So I got that book.
Calm down.
Oh, okay. So I got that book, and I read it, and was like just a reflection on my life, and kind of, what I thought was my unique personal view of the world. And so I started, researching it more. I read some more books, and then I took a few tests on the subject.
We saw the Big Bang Theory.
Oh yeah, and then started watching a TV show again called The Big Bang Theory. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Oh, yeah,
or
yeah,
ever
I know
watched
that
it.
one, yeah.
Oh, you know that one.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah,
So-
I've seen
so
a
years
couple.
ago-
They're pretty funny.
Yeah, so years ago, my sister, like a decade ago, told me, "Oh, you'll really like this," and so I watched it then, and thought, yeah, it was a funny, great story. But since I learned this about myself,
Wait, sorry,
I,
which character? The Sheldon character or someone else?
Yes. Yes.
well, yeah,
All right.
okay.
Exactly.
So I asked my wife, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being Leonard and 10 being Sheldon, where does she think I am? And she thinks a 7. I thought I was
All
maybe
right.
a 4. Okay, so that gives you a little.
Almost same.
No, not a 10. Anyway, so that gives you kind of a little understanding of what's going on there, right? And so in our discussion, one of the things, realize is that I think, for a long time, I've known that, when I talk to people and stuff, that my face doesn't show what I feel. It doesn't tell what I'm thinking or what I feel. And I've known this for a couple of decades, but, I never had any association with autism or anything like that. And then my wife says something I didn't know at all, and that is usually, maybe not right now because I'm a little nervous, I talk in a pretty monotone voice. And so, Go-
Almost,
go ahead.
almost like angry.
and yeah,
His tone and the face expression is like angry
right.
or nothing. Only 2 expression.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so, of course, this
So you're like
pattern.
a bunch of other Asian men. Am I right or wrong about that?
He says like a bunch of other Asian men.
Oh yeah, Asian also.
I mean,
no
really,
expression.
the inscrutable Oriental, that don't know what they're thinking and that kind of stuff.
Mm.
So it's not totally
Yeah, yeah.
unusual or unknown, and so on.
Yeah,
I've
when
had
they are
some Asian
serious.
employees over the course of my life, and I've given them performance reviews. I have no idea what they're experiencing, like not even a bit. And I'm pretty sensitive to this kind of stuff, and I'm like, I might as well be talking to a painting.
Mm.
Anyway,
You're
sorry,
right.
go ahead.
Yes. Oh, no problem. So clearly, that's not great because, this pattern means that she doesn't have an idea of what I'm really thinking. And so she just has to infer
Yes.
it. And because the pattern isn't really positive, she
Well,
infers it negative.
can't you get one of those big charts with different emotions and you can point to it?
Well, that's why we want to talk to you
All right.
about
Go ahead.
tools and techniques for overcoming this, right? Because my feelings don't match my look, and so that's clearly not a great thing. And one of the analogies I kind of came up with was that we're running different operating systems. She's a PC and I'm a Mac, and she needs me to right click the mouse button, to get the context menu, and I'm like, what right mouse button, and so we have this difficulty in communicating in that regard.
Nah, I'd
And it
say
leads
women are Macs and men are Linux. Build one or Unix or DOS. Anyway, but
Okay.
that's a bit nerd humor. But anyway, go on.
Yeah. So we're nerds, and so that's basically the fundamental question that because my communication, makes her feel defensive, makes her feel like I'm investigating her or attacking her when that isn't what is going in my mind at all. I'm thinking I'm actually communicating, right, with my words. One of the books I read talked about this story, this study in 1971 that basically said, 57% of communication is nonverbal, like 20 something or percent, 25% was tone,
Tone.
and then the rest was the words. And I'm thinking it's like 90% words, right? And so
Well, this is why people get into such trouble when they try to talk about emotions over text. Emojis will
yes.
not help.
Yes.
All caps does not help. I mean, people need tone. They
Yes.
need, I get all of that. So, sorry, go ahead.
Right. Well, and so that's kind of the crux of our problem because, I don't want to, in my general communication or even in my specific communication, engender these feelings in her. But I don't have a right mouse button to press. And so, like I said, tools, techniques, suggestions for things we could do to help us better communicate, because this is, the thing that was, I wrote your letter for. When we boiled it down, this was kind of our big impasse, because everything else we're like really, really on the same page. We just have a really hard time communicating that page to each other.
Okay. Can I add something?
Yeah, go for it.
Because and this communicate is not just for the very important serious topic. Even the simple topic, when do you want a coffee or that kind of things, also happening. This kind of miscommunicated problem.
Okay, so sorry to interrupt. What's something that happens when you ask him if he wants a coffee?
No. Oh, for example, what is that? How can I say? Just when we have a communication part, because he just listened the terms of the vocabulary or the words, he just stuck in the words, and he cannot see what happening here. He cannot read the room.
Okay.
He cannot get a hint. And for me is I am good at read the room. I'm a sales. I know how to deal with the people relationship, and I'm more sensitively and curiously, cautiously observing what he's doing. Non-verbal things. I am good at things. Good at about these things. But when I see him, when he's talking to me something, it's just like a angry man. Everything. And we start to arguing, why you angry? And he said, no, I'm not angry. I have no intent. our topic is different, but the scenario is same. We talk something, discussion, and why are you angry? No, I'm not. You have no intention, but you look like angry. No, you're wrong.
Right.
You're wrong, and I feel a little be attacked. No, I'm not wrong. I feel you angry. You keep saying I'm not. I feel wrong. That's wrong. We became like angry, and arguing.
Spirals from there.
Hang on. So he starts off nice, and you make him angry?
No,
I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'm kidding.
actually, when she says things like in her defense, okay, here's what I think it comes down to. When in studying this autism that people have, there was one thing that stood out that I never thought of at all, and that I have this high attuned sense of justice in the world,
justice,
and everything. Oh, that's not right. That's wrong.
Yeah.
So when she denies that I'm
not
angry, I feel like, oh, that's not right. I feel so. Then I become defensive.
Well, if somebody kept telling me I was angry when I wasn't angry, I'd end up angry. So, and I'm not saying that's the only mechanic, but yeah,
that's what happens.
But his intent have no angry, but he's showing his volume up, and the face is red, and talking like a pose. I read the nonverbal in whole my life experience. This thing is his attitude and tone, everything is when the people are angry, they do like this.
Oh, or gassy.
So
or they have too much gas and they need to fart or something like that. But
yeah.
So that became I misunderstood him.
And how long have you guys been together?
We've been married for 6.5 years, and we knew each other 3 years before that.
All right, so almost a decade. Have you not if they say opposites attract, I don't know if that's true or not, but if you have very different and kind of hard to understand styles of communication, what drew you together?
Well, I guess for the same reason she enjoys the Big Bang Theory. She's an intellectual person and can understand these kind of things.
Oh.
And what? Go ahead.
But at the first time I meet him, I never thinking he's autism.
Of course, I didn't either.
This serious.
Right.
And about after marriage, even I try to let him understand how to read the people. I'm thinking I explain better, he will understand and better. But I found out he's just stuck on the spot and he just cannot understand.
Okay, but hang on. So are you saying for the first 3 years of your relationship, he wasn't doing this stuff?
Doing what?
I wasn't showing this issue for the first 3 years, is what he's asking.
I think there's two things. I think she showed this kind of traits, but I think the first, okay, I understand. I will, how can I say, yell. I will just let him do it, and he will understand I'm doing something for him. Second is, if I explain well next time, he will be better. Something like that. Normal person is like that. I used to do like that.
No, but you didn't.
Other person.
You didn't want a normal person. Otherwise, you'd be with a normal person.
Yeah. And he has yes, he has this kind of trait. Yes, maybe communication is not, not easy, but he has a, very smart, on a something blind spot he can catch on the person, with the person or situation, that is very attractive.
But you fell in love. Sorry to interrupt. You fell in love with him as he was.
Yes.
And now you want him to change.
Because we cannot communicate.
You fell. No, listen. You could be totally right. I'm just trying to understand the mechanics here.
Yeah.
Because hang on. It's like if I say I need a car and I test drive a car, all these different cars, and then I test drive a car for 3 years, and then I finally buy it, and then 6 years after I buy it, I say, this is the wrong car.
Uh-huh. But uh-huh.
You want to say something? Or me?
Yeah. And after that, I just let him do it. And even I feel uncomfortable, I think I can bear with it. And after that, I bear and bear and bear. And it looks like I have a limitation that I cannot bear anymore. I became blow up. So now we about 1 year. I am seeing counselor
Uh-huh.
because when I'm arguing like this, I cannot control. I became, I'm panic. Oh my God, he's coming again and he will hurt me and I will be hurt again. Oh. And I became, traumatized and I screaming, which I never did that before. I became a little bit, I am limitation, I am already reached the limitation that I can bear with somebody make me uncomfortable or make me angry. Okay, is that okay? I'm a salesman. I always be bothered by another customers doing something impolite or something. I think I was vaccinated. I will be okay, but I think I'm already be limitation. So that is the happening to me.
And
Yeah.
can I add a couple of things here? One,
I
her
like
son.
I like the rhetorical question. Can I add a couple of things? Number one,
Okay.
it's like,
Yeah.
well, didn't you just ask me a question? Shouldn't you wait for me to respond? Can I
Yes,
ask
sir,
a couple
you're
of
right.
things? Sure, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Um, well, knowing when it's your turn to talk is also not a great attribute of
No,
mine.
you asked me. You asked me a question.
I know.
Anyway, it's fine. It's sort of rhetorical. Okay, go ahead with
Yeah.
your points.
One thing that may add something to it is that her son actually has a little bit of autism, not as bad as mine. So she's used to it. She dealt with it, and from my perspective, she did an awesome job on her son.
Yeah.
Okay, so
He's a normal. He can.
yeah, he's in sales.
He's
Okay,
a sale.
right. So and so he and I communicate great, and she's like jealous on how smoothly we communicate. Um, so
My son also said, it's a very good communicate with, him. So
So so I guess I say that in response to she does have these skills and is uh, adept at dealing with people like me more so than the most people. And so maybe when we met, it wasn't that abnormal to her, if that makes sense.
I'm used to it. But the problem was my son, I educate him when he have this kind of trait when he was young. I explained to him,
Yeah.
educate him, lead him this way. No, you have to understand. I know you are uncomfortable, but the normal people is uncomfortable because you acting like that. But I think his parents didn't do anything about this kind of trait.
Yeah.
And not dealing at all. They don't have interest in at all. Even his sister have,
Nobody, why should people be interested in the weirdness that I am? I mean, that's understandable a little bit.
They just say he's weird.
Yeah.
Their family say he's weird thinking,
Not
weird
comfortable to be around on that kind of,
yeah.
too direct.
Yeah, so they didn't study about him. But I study a lot about my son. So I thought it could be okay, but
Yeah.
it was not.
Or
I'm out of capability to, something like that. Now situation is like that.
Okay. All right. And what would you like to have me focus on?
I think I would like to change. Okay. So forget about her wanting to change me. Really, I would like to change. So let's say, even if she did get mad at something, I still have the response of not escalating, not becoming defensive, in those situations. So I would like to maybe learn some insights, if you have any, on tools, techniques, responses, things that I could do to not either in those situations, not become defensive myself, or prevent those situations from happening by doing something different in general. Now, I it's the way my brain's wired, so I don't think I can always, put on a mask of happiness. Sometimes I walk down the street and I have to tell myself, no, intentionally smile, right? And it's work, right? And sometimes it can be tiring. So I can't do that all the time. But maybe if there's just some tools and techniques or things you can think of that would,
Love language.
yeah, right. Love language.
Love
How can I communicate to this lady
love language
my love, and
as an artist
as a more
trait.
as an autism person? So does
Okay,
that make
so
sense?
you want a moral philosopher dude on the internet to cure your autism, as you call it.
No, not cure. Tools and techniques maybe that you think
Help.
might assist me.
Mhm.
All right.
Does that
All
make
right.
sense?
Now, look, have you ever been around severely autistic people?
I don't think I've ever been around. I've watched the movie Rain Man, things like that. Yeah.
Okay, but Rain Man
not been around.
is autistic
Extreme,
savant
yeah.
and so on. No, but I mean,
Yeah.
like the autistic people, like they can't brush their own teeth. They're nonverbal. Like,
No, I have not.
okay, if you hadn't told, this is one of the questions I ask myself, and of course, I'm not an expert on autism, but I think I know a little bit about human nature. If you had not told me you were autistic, would I know you were autistic?
I hope not. I've spent a life trying to hide it. So,
Well, but that's kind of important, right?
yeah.
It would be
But in
like
this
if I
realm,
said to someone, "Oh yeah, I have a mental disability." I don't know. Some people could say that excessive philosophy is a mental disability, but
right.
if I said, then people wouldn't know unless I told them, and that seems kind of important. Like with people who have severe cognitive issues, my half sister is one of them. You can't hide it. It's evident very quickly, and even people I've spent some time around people who are autistic and quite verbal, and the processing is way off, and things are very stilted and awkward, and you are very verbal and a very good communicator. So I'm just telling you, I can't speak to the autism thing. It sounds like you self-diagnosed based upon a guy's book from the internet, and I think it's a
No,
label. Sorry, go ahead.
there's an official test, and that I went to, and then I read many books. And like I said,
Hang on. What do you mean? I don't know about this. What do you mean? An official test?
there's psychological tests for determining ASD.
Okay. Okay, and what sort of
Okay.
questions are they? Do you have sometimes trouble reading men's emotions? Well, that's called being male. So, I mean, what is it that convinced you that you have this spectrum
Well,
disorder?
the biggest thing that convinced me are the identical, outside testing, are the identical experiences that people had that I thought nobody had but me, that describe my life and inner thoughts that I thought were fairly unique, but is clearly an exact pattern that other people are experiencing too, with whatever is wired differently in our brains. If that makes sense.
It makes no sense at all because you're
Okay.
just giving me categories rather than content. So, what
Okay.
specifically did you get on the test rather than, oh, it explained things that I didn't know? That doesn't explain things to me. So,
No,
what
that's
did you
the
get? Hang on. What did you get on the
Yeah.
test? Or what questions gave you the most indication that you felt you had autism?
Well, actually, the tests are, like you said, a bunch of questions, but it wasn't the questions that told me. It's just the summary of the test evaluation that said, according to their clinical test, that I do. It's more my reading about the experiences of other autistic people and listening to other autistic people, those categorizations of experiences that matched mine, that made me feel that way, whether I took a test or not.
Okay, categorizations of experiences. Tell me what you mean.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one I said earlier, my profound sense of justice and upset when I think justice isn't happening. That I feel. Let's see what else. The actually,
And you say you read something from book.
yeah, actually,
Yeah.
there's a whole list. I'm just trying to
Why
think.
everybody talking, not
Okay, so
directly.
sorry.
Oh yeah, direct talking, not non-filtered talking. Um, uh, Worried about the preciseness of the words. Constantly correcting. A complete inability to read any people, read the room, know what's really happening, um, or which looks like a little neurosis, and that I'm not taking other people's feelings into consent, but I just don't notice them. I'm not sensitive to them. Um,
And something like, the Dave, he
Yeah.
has a experience with the Microsoft, the Bill Gates, the manager.
Oh yeah,
producing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Where you need to correct people because what they said
It's
isn't
not right.
exactly right according to the definition of the words, and that really bugs you, and you can't let it go.
You can't really go. He have to speak out.
Yeah,
Otherwise, he cannot fall asleep.
yeah. And then just the ruinations of thoughts that just ping pong in my head all the time that I can't. When people said, "Oh, I'm relaxing," I'm like, "Well, what are you thinking about?" I'm always thinking about something. My brain just doesn't turn off. And of course, that's caused massive insomnia over my life. Um, so that's some of them. There was a list of like 55 that this guy was going through, and I hit 31 of them. And different autistic people have different issues, but there are definitely patterns. Oh well, pattern matching. I'm pretty good in some areas of I see patterns and things that other people don't see at all. So that's a smattering of them.
Okay, so how would I not fit those definitions? I am excessively concerned with justice and correctness and rightness and fairness. I am very obsessive when it comes to defining terms and so on. And with regards to not reading people's emotions, sometimes people's emotions are highly manipulative, and to not be manipulated by people means that you have to ignore their emotions. So it's the difference between authentic emotions or manipulative emotions. As far as, I don't know, whatever, racing thoughts, excessive thoughts, well, I don't know. I mean, I like a musician who's constantly thinking about music. Are they autistic or is it talented? I don't know. So I'm trying to figure out how all of this stuff sort of automatically becomes a sort of massive brain dysfunction when it just seems like a concern with justice, accuracy, truth, and integrity would be the marks of a moral person to some degree.
Okay, fair enough. So let's just pretend that right or wrong, that the definition of autism doesn't exist. Fine. I don't have a problem with that. I've lived my whole life that way, and I certainly didn't put that label on me. Okay. Well, I still have this issue with communication with my wife that I could use some help on.
Well,
Does that make
yes,
sense?
but if it is a sort of the reason I'm saying is that if this is some sort of physical brain disorder, then I'm going to have a different approach as opposed to if it is more philosophical in nature, if that makes sense.
I'm not sure how it would be a philosophical in nature, and I'm not sure I would consider it a disorder. It's just a different order than most people.
Well, it's certainly causing problems in your relationship. Therefore, it is causing disorder in your relationship. Okay, let me ask you
whether my brain is disordered or not is causing problems. Yes.
Okay, so let me ask you about your childhood so that I can understand the environment in which your brain was shaped. So, in your childhood, tell me a little bit about your relationship with your father, your mother, how you were disciplined, if you were disciplined, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, this isn't my first time to call you. I called you, I think, was it 3 years ago, and we had a pretty in-depth discussion on this. I could give you the show number, but you don't have time to look it up now.
I recognize the voice, and I'm just saying because people aren't going to go back and listen to prior shows, so you can just give me a summary.
Right. So basically, my father was pretty indifferent. My mom never liked me. She let me know that on a regular basis. My sister and I were never close. Everybody, what else? Yeah, my mom was fairly abusive. My dad didn't help stop those abuses. I cut my mom off twice. Once about 25 years ago, then I let her back into my life a little bit, and that was a mistake. And so I cut her off permanently before she passed away. Um, I've always had this situation where I felt, nobody understood me at all, no, and or even wanted to understand me, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
So grew up in pretty strong loneliness in that regard. Um,
Yeah.
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 So you were not
What other
taught. You were not taught how to. You were not empathized with, and you were not taught how to empathize with others.
No.
Yes, correct. And
So,
yeah,
if I am not taught Japanese, am I autistic for not knowing Japanese?
no. But I would say I really actually have a fairly strong um, set of empathy for people in
Mhm.
certain situations. Like, years ago, I used to volunteer for Amnesty International when I thought they were, philosophically aligned, because I felt that, if I were in that country, I would probably be the person in jail or being tortured because I speak out, and I speak my mind. Um, and so many situations, I do have, very strong empathy in that regard. Maybe not the general empathy that you're alluding to. I don't know, but I'm definitely not absent of empathy
Okay.
for certain situations.
Now, what about your emotionality as a child? Was that
Mhm.
welcomed? Was that criticized or rejected or attacked? Or how was your emotionality dealt with as a child? Because
I
all
think
children are passionate, right?
Um, yes, I guess when I think about it, I've always asked too many questions, and even to this day, it's like the 3-year-old kid. How, mommy? What is that? And how does that? And my brain still thinks that today, right? So with my parents and most people, it was just annoying. Um, and so one of the problems that I still have, because I do it, is I can see now that I'm still annoying to people in that regard, that I just can't help but speak out and ask those questions, whether it's appropriate at that time.
Sorry, do you think that
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make this about me, but
Uh-huh.
do you think that I've annoyed people from time to time? Have you seen my Wikipedia page? I mean, do you not
Oh, I'm
think that
sure.
I'm annoying to people as well?
Well, okay, Stefan, again, forget the autism phrase, but I've even told my wife, I see you as my brother from a different mother. Okay. All the way to the extent of
Got it.
enjoying model railroading and volleyball and startups,
Right,
software
right.
startups. So yeah, yeah, I understand. So I'm not trying to be an advocate for I don't have a great love of the whole profession of psychoanalysis or whatever you call it there anyway. Whether their term is accurate or not, whether their tests are accurate or not, it's not that concerning to me. I was just trying to use it as a label, like Sheldon, to try to get some identification of the kind of person I am.
Okay. Got it. Got it. So when you were passionate or emotional, if you can remember that as a kid, we all get passionate and emotional as children. How was it dealt with in general?
Uh,
just like you make a car, nobody.
yeah. So nobody really cared about the things I was passionate about. Um,
He always doing something alone.
yeah. So like for instance, when I started 14, I built a kit car, a Bugatti kit car. It took me like 3 years to build. And I
And
realized,
he worked for the payment.
yeah, spent all my money that I got jobs to build and everything. And what I realized that actually I don't have a picture of it, even though my dad liked taking pictures. And I realized, I'd have to go down to my grandparents to work on it because we lived in an apartment complex. And I realized my parents actually never saw me work on this passion project that I spent 3 years working on.
Really?
Yeah.
Even your sister?
No, nobody ever came and looked. I mean, my grandparents did because I was building their house, and they loved it, right?
Did they ask you how it's going on?
No, never.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, they were, I guess I'd say at best indifferent. And then probably on my mom's side, anything that I was excited about, I was just annoying her.
Yeah, I can understand. I will tell for example, the Big Bang story, Big Bang Theory.
Mhm.
The Sheldon, when he talking with the Penny, and Penny cannot understand. She always, the expression is, what? That kind of expression. I think that is the expression from his mother. I think mother cannot understand him at all.
No, my mom's wasn't even that indifferent. My mom's was a negative expression more than Penny's, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's
Penny's
affection
expression.
between Penny and the guys, and
Yes.
Sheldon tries to teach her about physics, and she tries to teach him about the Kardashians. There's sort of a reasonable exchange of information.
Right.
So, okay.
Yeah.
But of course, it's the
Yeah.
parents' job to involve themselves in the passions of their children.
Yeah. No, didn't happen.
Even you say your mother wrote a letter. You say,
Yeah, but that's not when I was a kid. That's later.
oh, you're the kid.
Yeah. So,
Okay, so your parents had indifference or hostility towards your
Mhm.
emotions.
yes.
I'm sorry about that, of course. I'm sure we talked about that before. Okay,
Mm.
so how would you have these skills if not only were they not taught to you, but you were punished for
Yeah.
Mm.
emotions?
No, I don't expect me to have those skills, because of that. I agree with you. So given that state where I'm at now, which is, I'd like to have something to help out there. Um,
Well,
so-
let me ask you an annoyingly emotional question. How
Mhm.
much have you gone through the grieving process of having been ignored, neglected, and perhaps a little abused as a child?
Yeah, well, after our discussion last time, I'm pretty okay. I think I've gone through that. And I don't have any giant things hanging over my head anymore in that regard. Emotionally. It's almost
Okay,
like,
so
yeah, that's the way it was.
hang on. So how did you deal with decades of neglect and perhaps abuse?
You mean how did I deal with it at the time, or how did I resolve
Now,
that
sort
pain?
of sense. What have you done?
Uh, well, I resolved that pain of accepting the fact of what it was and why it was that way, the circumstances that made it that way. And yes, it's unjust. It's not fair, but the world is that way somehow, and I can just either hang on it forever, or I can realize, well, okay, that was the past, and what can I do about it now to not repeat it and to enjoy my future?
Okay, so you came to the conclusion that the neglect, which is abuse to me, neglect is one of the
Yeah.
worst forms of abuse.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
it's a to-
sorry, go ahead.
I'm just agreeing. Yeah.
totally ignored when I'm hearing from him about his experience. It's kind of ignored like a plant, like a furniture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, they were probably happy that you had a passion project because it got you out from under them. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's appalling. And I, of course, you're a mother, I'm a father, and taking interest in my child's interests is a great delight of mine. I
Mhm.
love for her to teach me about things that she knows more about, that she's learned, especially sort of modern youth culture is very helpful, keeps me young. So
Right.
your parents were appallingly wrong and bad for what they
Mhm.
did. And
Mhm.
I don't get a sense of anger at
Oh,
how
no,
you
I
were
was angry.
mistreated.
I was angry, and actually, I did have a couple of years ago a really long talk with my dad. Come to Jesus talk, so to speak, with my dad to express that anger and disappointment. And actually, I would say it was better than I expected because he didn't turn all defensive. Um, you know, he's in his 90s, so I didn't expect much. I just kind of had to get it out. And he, I think, even felt, a closer understanding of me. But, he's not going to all of a sudden be a deeply empathetic, caring person at his old age. But it did release a lot because I got it out there. And that was a giant step of getting rid of my anger. I still haven't had the chance or opportunity to have that conversation with my sister that I would like to. I did send her the chapter from your book, Peaceful Parenting, on how siblings can be actually a massive aid to each other. And I thought maybe she would see that, we could have had that bond. Maybe we can still have that bond. But she actually didn't even comment on it. So I was disappointed there. And I still.
And I'm sorry, the issues that you would have with your sister?
Well, you said that in your book, you talked about how.
Oh, no, the issues you
siblings.
have with your sister. I know what I've talked about in my book.
Okay. Well, the issue I have is that, she didn't always, support me at all, or actually at all. She never supported me. And then even as an adult, one of the issues is, I didn't always live where we lived and I lived far away, but every time I would come back, I would always go visit her and spend time with her. But then I look back, over like a 50-year period, I'd been there to visit her and go out of my way to spend time with her at least 30, 40 times. Well, when I was going back every other year or every year, I would always make an issue to go spend time with her. But when I look back over it, only twice in that 50-year period did she ever come visit me or make an effort. And that's, kind of hurtful.
Can I add explanation?
Okay.
As I met his sister and heard about some story, I hope it can help you understand him. I think his sister is a kind of 1 year older than you.
Yeah, year and a half.
A year and a half. But she was a very different character with him. And she took advantage that she already knew their parents don't like him. So she can take advantage a lot from the parents. For example, they fighting in a room, two of them, and she's some angry about him, and she started crying. He did nothing, and she started crying. He explained to me before, and she crying, and the mother coming. Oh my brother is hit me. She's that kind of person. She take advantage because she know that the parents will believe me than my brothers. Something like that. And she was very famous. She was pretty famous in school, right? Like a cheerleader. And after go to college and just the first year met her husband and have a good life and prosperous. She got everything. She have 5 kids. She don't need to worry about anything herself. She was just famous and successful life and beloved, something like that. So when I met her first day with him, I visit with him, her house, and we have a good dinner and we play a game. And I don't know what they speaking together. And she just suddenly showing, she just don't stop talking and she just angry and just go away in front of me. Yeah.
Oh, well, that particular incident, she brought up something that happened when I was 12.
Yeah, he brought up that
out of nowhere, this topic of I was 12, she had her boyfriend and his friend over and they were smoking pot. And in my brain, it was like, oh, the police are going to come take over my parents' house. And so I chased them out of the house with a BB gun because I didn't want my parents to lose their house. And she brought up that in this situation where my wife is meeting her for the first time, right? And I'm like, well, maybe instead in my brain anyway, my thinking was maybe you should have instead thought about me, that I was so scared instead of defending your boyfriend at the time. I wanted to look good in front of them. And like, why would a lady in her, late 50s, 60s, bring up this conversation out of nowhere to try to make me look bad, and that's
And they just argue.
yeah. So I didn't get that at all. So
Sorry,
so
you
yes,
didn't
I
you
still
didn't know why your sister brought up that story.
yeah, in that particular situation, and from her perspective is that the reason for bringing up that system was to show bad light on me on something I did,
Right.
when I thought it actually showed bad light on her from my perspective.
Well, so why do you think she did? I mean, in hindsight, why did she bring up that? This is the first time she met your wife, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Although your wife to be, your girlfriend, fiance.
No, she was my. Well, actually, we were
Right.
married.
And did she come to the wedding?
Actually, yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I assume it's just sabotage.
Yes, likely. And I guess, maybe with her, if I can pinpoint the issue I have remaining there, I'm kind of past my parents, but the issue I have remaining there and would like to talk to her about is, she's always, family's most important thing, and she has 5 kids, and she's constantly, the kids live around the country, so she's constantly flying from one kid's house to the other to help them out and yada yada. Yet I'm like, okay, family's the most important. Am I not also part of your family? But, I don't see that. So that kind of, that's
Well, so your
probably,
sister is very focused on status, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So when you were younger, when you guys were teenagers and so on, were you high status for her or low status for her?
No, I'm low status for her.
Right. So she is
Yeah.
frustrated and angry that you interfere with her status.
Mm,
And so, because you've lowered her status in her mind, she will work to lower
mm,
your status with your wife.
yeah.
It's
Okay.
standard pecking order sibling stuff, isn't it?
Right.
Which is not to say
Right.
painful or annoying or upsetting or angry, but I have a sibling who's very interested in status and all of that. So
Okay.
I think I understand this stuff
Yeah.
a little bit.
Okay. Mm.
Okay.
So as far as what you were saying, my emotions left from the past that I haven't dealt with, that's about the only one I can think of that, I would still like to have closure on, that I haven't had that closure on.
How did you deal with the anger of being neglected and humiliated by your parents' indifference? I'm still not sure about that. Like just saying to yourself, well, the world is unjust and it's all in the past is actually a way of not dealing with your anger, not processing your anger.
Mm, maybe I guess I can't quite grasp what you mean by the dealing with.
Sure. Well, so one of the things that I don't know if you've listened to shows where I've talked about my childhood,
Yes.
it's a long time ago, man. It still upsets me from time to time because
Mm-hmm.
it's core. It's right at the beginning of life. And
Right.
so it's never going to really go away. So
Yes.
I did a show just last night where somebody was asking me about the Quran and all of that, and I was talking about how my entire society neglected or avoided what I was going through and so on. Now I don't wake up every morning with my jaw clenched in rage, and I still have a great life as a whole. But if the topic comes up, yeah, there's some residual injustice and frustration and anger. So when I was
Mhm.
listening to you talk about your childhood, I was listening for emotional connection to what actually happened to you.
Right.
I didn't
And
hear it.
we talked about this last time. And I guess there's 2 aspects. Because I don't have that much emotional connection anymore. Yes, if I dwell on something, yeah, or something happens, I might feel sad at that moment and cry about it. But as a general everyday thing, I've kind of, for lack of a better term, move on. It's not something I want to waste more of my life dwelling on. Okay.
So
I
that's
would
it, but
rather
that's an attitude to your emotions. And the reason, so you talked about crying about the past, which is
yeah.
fine. I mean, that's not a bad thing to do. But in general, when you are neglected as a child, the hardest emotion to process or to express is anger. Because
Hmm.
when you are neglected as a child, there's a very weak bond. And you have to have a strong bond to handle anger in a relationship. You have to really be committed to the relationship in order to be able to handle anger. Now, if your parents were ignoring you, then you can't get angry at them because the bond is so weak that you're concerned that anger will cause you to be rejected or ejected. Like, that's not like rational in the modern world, but throughout our evolution, if the parents didn't particularly care about a child and the child proved too inconvenient, well, that would lower the odds of survival for the child considerably. And the reason I'm bringing the anger up is your lovely wife was saying what about the predominant emotion she senses from you? You are what?
Anger.
Angry.
Uh-huh.
Angry. And the emotions we have that we do not express, we tend to provoke in others.
Oh.
And what does your wife experience more and more?
Oh.
Anger. You said earlier, I never used to yell. And you get more angry and more, sorry, your wife, you get more angry and more frustrated as time goes on. So if I had to guess, and I'm jumping into this couples dynamic for the first time, so I'm going to do a little bit of firing from the hip, so to speak, and maybe we'll hit a target and maybe we won't. But if I had to guess, I would say that the neglect caused you to have to suppress your anger. And anger is a very healthy emotion because it is the immune system of our mind. It helps us know when we're being exploited, when we're being taken advantage of, when something bad is happening. And anger is a very healthy emotion for fighting, injustice or bad things or wrong things. Now, as a child, you grew up being ignored and you were frustrated, hurt, and angry about being ignored. What's interesting to me is that, let's imagine, how old were you when you started building your kit car?
14.
14, okay. So imagine the following scenario and tell me how this would have played out. After a couple of months of working on the kit car, you go upstairs and you grab your parents by the arm and say, listen, guys, I've been working on this project 3 months. You've shown no interest. What's wrong with you? Come down and have a look at my project. It matters to me and it should matter to you. What would have happened?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
What would have happened if you'd have done that?
My mom would have found an excuse not to go or been mad that I interrupted whatever she was wanting to do at that time.
Okay, so you pretend to be your mom. What would she have said to me? I'll be you. You be your mom. What would she have said? I just need to understand this source story. So you say, come down, Mom. It matters to me. You've shown no interest in it. Sorry?
No, right now I'm busy. Don't bother me.
No, I want to bother you. It's been 3 months. You haven't been busy for 3 months. You're being a lazy parent. You're not showing interest in what I'm doing. It matters to me. It should matter to you as a parent. Get your ass downstairs and have a look at my car.
She would have got kind of pissed off, I guess I would say.
Okay, yeah. She would have said what?
That's a long time ago. I don't really think
alive,
in her voice.
What kind of piss off?
What was she saying?
Well, yeah, her pissed off. It starts with the smacking of the lips kind of thing, the tapping of the foot. Those are kind of the expressions that she has. I don't trying to remember.
Just roughly. I'm not asking you to remember because this never happened. Yeah. But you know your mother very well because you grew up with her and you've known her for decades and decades and decades. So if you are insistent on having your needs met, and these are reasonable needs.
She might very reluctantly cross her arms and walk downstairs and then take a glance and then turn around and walk back upstairs very heavy-footed.
Okay, and then I would say, whoa, no, come back, Mom, come back. That's not enough time. I need to explain to you what it is that I'm doing, because it really matters to me. And parents, good parents, show an interest in their children's activities. So you need to get back down here, spend some time with me, learn what it is that I'm doing, be a good parent. You're not that busy. I know you're not that busy, and you certainly haven't been busy for 3 months, so get back down here and look at my car.
Well, if I said, get back down here, look at my car, she'd say, don't talk to me like that.
I will talk to you like that if you're being a bad parent. You guys talk to me like that when I'm being a bad son. You're being a bad parent. Get down here and look at my car.
She would have stormed off, walked away. Maybe you're going to get it when your dad gets home or something like that for talking to me that way.
Okay, so now you're threatening me. All I did was ask you to come and have a look at my car and would not accept you coming down and then walking back up. It matters to me that you look at my car, and good parents take an interest in what their children are doing. It's been 3 months I've been down there. You've never asked me one question. You've showed me no interest. That hurts me. It makes me angry. It's bad parenting. And I have the right to have some decent parenting, and I have the right, because you chose to have children, you owe me your attention. Just like you owe me food and health care and shelter. I am starving to death emotionally because you're not showing me any attention. You need to show me attention. It's killing me.
She would have probably rolled her eyes, stopped listening after my first sentence, and then when I was done, walk upstairs.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Then you follow her upstairs with your plans and you say, okay, we can do it up here. I'm going to spread out my plans. You can have a look at the plans. I really want to share this with you, Mom. It's really important to me. I'd like us to have more to talk about than we do because we barely talk as it is. I really want to share this with you. And you'd open your plans and say, I'd really like you to come and have a look at this. It really matters to me. I've really poured heart and soul into this.
Wouldn't have come over to look. Try to walk out of the room if she could. Wouldn't care what I was saying.
Okay, then I'd say you're going into an old age home. No, you do this to me? You do this to me? The moment I fucking turn 18, I'm out and I'm not looking back. If you don't show any attention to me, I will owe you nothing when I leave. You will not see your grandchildren, and I will not take care of you in your old age. And if anybody asks me, I will say my parents were terrible, showed me no interest even when I begged them to.
I think she would hear I'm going to go out when I'm 18 and be happy by that. And I think the not taking care of you in my old age is asking too much for her to think in the future.
But she's not dumb, is she?
Huh?
She's not dumb, is she?
No, she'd figure my daughter would take care of her.
Oh, and I'm also going to try and make sure that your daughter also understands the nature of your terrible parenting. So I'm just telling you, you will become an enemy and I will work against your interests if you don't show me the basic minimal attention. I've asked for one thing in months and months, if not years and years. I've asked for one thing and you will not even give that to me. What kind of monster are you? You can't even show 10 minutes attention to your child's passion project.
I don't think my evaluation of her as a monster would have much weight. And her evaluation of my ability to convince other people of her being bad is very minimal compared to her self-assessment of her ability to get those other people to think good of her.
And then I would say, oh, by the way, I've been recording this whole thing.
That would piss her off.
Yeah, I've got a recording. Yep. Now I've got a recording. I've got a recording of me begging you for the first time in months and months, if not years and years, for 5 or 10 minutes attention, and you threatening me.
Yeah, she might get physical to try to get the recording in that case.
Okay, say it's already on the cloud. You can't get rid of it.
Well, that predates us. But
well, you know what I mean, like whatever it would be, right?
Yeah.
Or you don't tell her then, and then you say the next day, yeah, I've uploaded it. It's on YouTube. It's private. It's got your name on it. If you don't start paying me some attention, I'm going to publish this and send it all around to family.
Honestly, I couldn't predict her actions. They're not that rational for me to know what she would do when threatened in that situation.
Well, she would simply escalate and threaten
but
everything that she could think of, including putting you out on the street.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, I'm angry, and I'm not you. I'm angry about this absolutely fucked up and appalling behavior. So why aren't you angry?
Me too.
Well, I guess I don't have anything additional to add there. I was angry, but she's out of my life, and I don't want to dwell on her much.
It's not dwelling on her, it's dwelling on your authentic experience. Because if your wife, if you've got a lot of anger, but you are avoiding it because you couldn't possibly express it as a child and a teenager, then your wife will experience that anger in your resting face.
Okay.
Have you ever expressed this anger towards your mother directly?
Well, she's dead now.
Sorry, did you?
Some of it, but I had, back then I hadn't processed it. This is all, pre-listening to you.
Sure.
So I really hadn't processed it that much back then. So that's why, I did do it with my dad. I'd like to do it with my sister.
Okay,
so
did you do it with your dad about choosing this cold-hearted witch of a mother?
Yeah, I brought that up. Yep.
Okay, and did you express your anger that he did not also show interest in your passion projects or demand that your mother do it as well?
I didn't bring up my demand that my mother do it, but I did express. Well, actually, I think at the time I talked to him, I hadn't connected the particular car one or my interest per se. I did bring up to him his indifference, his supporting her when he knew she was wrong, things of that nature. But as far as, shared interest, I mean, I was actually grateful, not in our particular discussion, but I know I was grateful that what shared interest he did have in me. I mean, we occasionally played Legos together. We played some games together, went on some bicycle rides. So, the little I got from him was appreciated a lot since I got zero from my mom, right? And
That's terrible, though.
well, I know, but that is the way it was.
Sorry, what's your cultural background?
I'm from U.S.
Religion?
I'm a non-believer, atheist.
Okay. All right. Yeah, but your parents Christians or Jews or some other religion?
Mom was Catholic, dad was Methodist. Before 5, they sent us to Sunday school occasionally, but never really enforced her. I don't think they really believed. In later years, my mom really got into her Catholicism, but to me, it was kind of a sham.
Okay. Now, let me just switch to your wife for a moment. What is your experience of... I get a lot of anger coming off him, but what do you think?
Think about what?
Do you feel that I have a lot of internal anger?
No, sorry. Sorry. I wasn't clear. My apologies. What do you feel or experience based upon hearing these stories?
Today?
Yeah. Just now.
Well, it's weird because he cannot express by words verbally his anger. Because if I have an emotion, something like that, I know I'm used to write down write a lot, write down verbally, express how I feel, why I feel, what is it, something like that. But he looks like, don't know how to express his feeling. And I feel like whole his life, I think nobody asked him, how do you feel to him? You know.
Well, no, you've asked him.
How you feel today?
You've asked him. I've asked him.
Yeah. His childhood, when he childhood, I think.
Yeah.
So that was a little sad. He's not little sad. He's a
tragedy.
He's a miserable. even, Stefan talking like a mom, he talking like you.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't talk that way to her, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I already heard like this. I'm so angry.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now,
she
I
did
just want to be
nothing.
clear, like there's no way you could have had that conversation as a child.
Yeah.
This was just a
Yeah.
mental exercise.
Sure.
And
Yes.
if I were to look across, you've done some eye rolling, you've whispered something to your wife that I couldn't quite catch. And I think what I experience is a fair amount of hostility towards this line of questioning or reasoning, if that makes sense, about the processing of anger.
No, I don't have any hostility. I feel that I've been through it before, and I don't feel well, this is kind of the core of the problem. I don't feel angry, right?
Huh?
In our discussions, but she feels that I'm angry, but I'm, it may be I'm actually feeling happy that something, because I'm saying it in such a monotonic way, or the words I choose makes her think I'm angry, even though that literally I know at the time is not how I feel.
No, but I know,
So I'm not
I
going to
know,
deny.
hang on, bro, sorry to interrupt. I know that you're angry, though, because you've been quite contemptuous and dismissive of this line of conversation. In other words, you said, well, I don't want to dwell on it. I've already gone through it. It's in the past. Like I'm dragging you back to something useless and pointless. And so you've had quite a bit of hostility. And listen, there's nothing wrong with that. I have no problem with hostility or anger. These things are totally fine. But you have been quite contemptuous and dismissive of this line of questioning rather than open to its potential value. You have prejudged it as useless and dwelling in the past and negative, and you've moved beyond it, and there's no reason or point to go back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I agree with what you said, that I prejudged it, but I can prejudge it, but I don't feel angry that you're asking it. I actually kind of expected it, Stefan. So I'm not angry that you're asking it, or
But then why would you hang on? But then why would you put the line of questioning in such a negative or contemptuous frame of mind?
Why would I put the line of questioning?
Yeah, to say, well, I don't want to dwell in the past. It's useless. It's pointless. I've done it. I've been through it. It's not an issue. That kind of stuff. Because you have two people now, one
Mhm.
who's talked to you in depth before, and one of who you've known for almost 10 years, who say
Mhm.
you seem to have a bit of a problem with being angry, and you're not taking any coaching. You've not once
Well,
said, well, most people who were neglected do have anger, and I told you so the reasoning, which is that the weak bond leads to
Yeah.
not being able to express anger. That when you try to express anger, and that's why I asked for the role play with your mother. Your mother was vicious and contemptuous and hostile and unreachable emotionally, a sociopath or something like that, in my amateur opinion.
Yeah.
And so, given that you had such a weak bond and they showed no interest in you and you could not express any anger towards them, that would have caused you, as a survival mechanism, to suppress anger. And you can't just suppress anger, you can only suppress all emotion. It's sort of like you can't just, there's not one dial that among many. You just turn one dial down, like an equalizer, like it's just one big dial that goes up and down with regards to emotions. And so, given that emotions were attacked in your family, given that you were not able to express anger, given that you can't express anger directly at the moment, but what you do is, and again, this is a habit I perceive, and I think it's true, but what you do is, if something goes in a line of questioning that you don't like, you start to react in a contemptuous or negative manner in order to stop the line of questioning and to frustrate and upset the other person. Because you've called me for my expertise, I'm trying to apply my expertise, and you're just telling me that what I'm doing is wrong and useless. Now, that's interesting, right?
Well, I personally, I didn't. My response would be, you're asking me how I feel, and do I feel angry? And I'm trying to give you the honest answer that I don't feel angry.
No,
So
but
what?
no, that's not what I'm saying, though. And again, it's
Okay.
quite provocative that you would mischaracterize what I said in this way. So, what I said was that you express contempt and hostility towards the very idea of exploring your anger, which is itself a very angry phenomenon. Your actions are provocative. And listen, you're free to provoke me, but you've called me for my expertise. I'm telling you, based upon some considerable experience in these matters, that anger is probably something that you need to work on. And you say, no, I've already done it. I don't want to dwell on the past. It's not an issue. I don't need to. It's all been dealt with and all that. Without saying, oh, that's interesting. Tell me a little bit more about why you think it would be helpful. Or, so you've got two people saying that you have a temper that you're not expressing, and you're not even curious about the coaching.
Okay.
I mean, you do recognize that you did, and you can listen back to it if you want. And listen, you're obviously perfectly free to think that my line of questioning is useless and so on, but I think you should at least give me some credibility and respect for it being potentially of use. But you kept telling me over and over again, no, I've dealt with it. No, it's in the past. I don't want to dwell on it. It's negative. It doesn't matter. Right? You just kept pouring sort of contempt and scorn on the line of questioning, which is a little rude if you're calling me for expertise.
Okay. I didn't realize I was doing that. I thought I was accurately answering your question about how I felt about these things in the past. Okay. I mean,
well, no, that's not a feeling, though. There's a difference between feelings and judgments.
Okay.
I don't want to dwell on it is different from I don't really feel any anger. I don't want to dwell on it is a judgment, and it frames it as, well, you know how some people just ruminate on a past wrong? Oh, last month that guy cut me off, in the highway.
I'm an expert.
Still talking.
I'm an expert at rumination.
Still hang on. Let me finish my thought. I've done a lot of listening, so let me do some talking.
Sure.
So there are people who ruminate uselessly on past things. So some guy, say some guy cuts you off, and, a month later you're still, oh my God, that guy cut me off, and so on. So that would be dwelling on things in a negative manner. However, if you grew up with incredible provocation from your parents, right? So your mother is incredibly provocative in the role play. If you grew up with incredible provocation from your parents and an absolute inability to express any anger because you have such a weak bond, if you try to express any anger, they will kick you out of the house. And they're incredibly provocative because every time you're down there, for 3 years, you're working on this car kit and you are waiting for a knock at the door to say, hey, what are you doing? Well, you've been down here forever. Like, what's going on? And they don't ever do it. That's incredibly painful. And it's provocative. It would make people angry. So what has happened to all of that anger that you could never express to your parents? That's my question. You can't just erase it.
Right. So I'm a champion at what's the term? Rumination. Bouncing the ideas in my head over and over and over, and it gets stuck. Right. That's one of the reasons I'm an insomniac, or had been an insomniac, because I do that a lot. At some point, you have to fight against that to stop it. Right. It's not a healthy thing to do. So that fight has to be a conscious effort. It's not just going to turn itself off on its own. And so instead of continuously ruminating on how I was raised and treated, I had to consciously say, okay, enough of it.
So you just continue to suppress the upset.
So you have to be upset continuously forever?
Well, now come on. You're an intelligent guy. You know what a false dichotomy is, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's either I suppress all of my emotions or I'm enraged forever. That's a false dichotomy, right?
Agreed.
Okay, do you think that I am enraged forever?
Okay, so what is the middle ground? Maybe I don't get the middle ground.
Hang on, I asked you a question. Do you think that I am enraged forever?
No.
Okay, was I mistreated as a child?
Yes.
Have I, I've talked about going to years of therapy and dealing with a temper. I certainly had a temper when I was younger. I think I've tried to maneuver my temper into something that's productive for the world, in which I'm generally friendly, but, if I've had a couple of calls this week where people have been kind of trolls, and I'll do it for a while and then I'll get angry because I think it's healthy. So I think, I don't know what perfection is, and I certainly don't manifest it, but I think I have a reasonably good relationship with anger. So I did that by going through the outrage and processing it and expressing it and getting angry and recognizing that anger was healthy and so on. So if you say to me, Steph, I either repress all of my emotions or I'm enraged forever, that's also provocative because that's not what you're here for and that's not what I do. So you're giving me a false dichotomy that's the complete opposite of everything I've ever done, and I don't think you're conscious of it, and obviously that's fine. But do you understand now when you say to me, well, Steph, I either suppress my emotions or I'm upset and angry forever, when I have entire shows about the value and healthiness of anger, and of course, I'm not enraged forever. So you're giving me a false dichotomy that's entirely defensive and the exact opposite of everything I've ever talked about.
Yes, that was an incorrect statement. I apologize for that. And it is that intermediate processing that you've been able to accomplish that I'm looking for so that I can do the same.
Well, but you're not looking for it because you're calling me up for expertise. And maybe this is something your wife experiences, that you ask for advice and then express some contempt or hostility towards the advice that is given. And so you're calling me up for advice, and I'm trying to give you what I think is a very useful and powerful insight and understanding as to why people experience you as angry. And you're just telling me not only that I'm wrong, but the entire line of questioning is completely useless. And also that if you were to accept my line of questioning, that you would then be upset and enraged forever, like I would do something that would have you be uselessly upset and enraged forever. That would be to impugn a malignant or malicious motive to me, that I would somehow be leading you down a path that would have you enraged, frustrated, and upset forever. Like, that would be very cruel on my part if I were to do that, right?
Well, I don't think I alluded to that at all.
You
I certainly didn't feel that way.
You said it directly. You said, well, I said, so you just suppress your emotions. And you said, well, the only alternative is what? To be upset forever? To be upset forever? So you did say that, as if I'm saying, well, you need to get in touch with your emotions. And then you said, well, the only alternative to suppressing my emotions is to be upset forever. That's a false dichotomy. So you were, in a sense, and I'm not saying consciously, and I'm not offended, but I'm saying that you were saying to me that I was leading you down a very destructive path.
Okay, agree to all of that. I think my wife would agree is that I do kind of go to the extremes on the black and white, and there's no gray. And so I felt I did that probably here too.
So just like you, Stefan, and you talking today, now is because this is his habit. When he have a discussion, he have a pre-assumption. He think pre-judgment, and it says so, it's done, something like that. So he easy to misunderstanding. He is not, I don't know why. He just not listening to the end. What he's talking, maybe at the beginning, it's not relative. Why are you talking that way? But I used to listening the end, and maybe the answer that I want to hear be coming there. So I can wait, but he cannot wait. This is his habit. That's why we arguing, just like you said, No, I didn't say that. You said that, that kind of things, It's happening. It's same things, same habit.
Well, and listen, this is to your husband. I hugely, hugely sympathize. Because
yes, me too.
The direct expression of emotion was extremely dangerous. And the way that we evolve is it's going to get us killed. And so, listen, and I know that sounds like hyperbole or an exaggeration, but evolutionarily speaking, like hundreds of thousands or millions of years ago, childhood survival was very risky. Like half the children died before the age of 5. And I would assume that half of the children who died weren't the most popular and beloved children, but it would be the difficult, unpleasant children who maybe looked without affection at their parents and so on. So we are desperate to please our parents. And if we displease our parents, our genes tell us we're going to get killed, or we're going to get ignored, or we're going to get neglected. Or even if we survive our childhood, we won't have the parental support we need to find a mate, get married, and have children. And so when our parents mistreat us, we bond with them, and thinking about disagreeing with our parents strongly is unthinkable, which is why when I did that role play of being actually demanding of decent and reasonable behavior on the part of the parents, it was hard to even process. And your wife's face was quite instructive with her mouth open, like, oh my gosh, could you imagine saying that to your parent? Well, of course we do imagine saying these things to our parents because we are angry at them. And so it became hard to process what would happen if you were actually directly and dangerously assertive with your mother. And she made threats, you're going to get it when your father gets home, and so on. And then when you countered with threats, she got very upset in the role play, and it's, how dare you? And it's like, I am just doing what you're doing, Mom. Right? So to have direct anger towards parents feels like stepping off a cliff, which is why when you say, I either suppress my emotions or I am in grave danger and I will suffer forever, you're not talking to me, you're talking about your parents. That with them, you had to suppress your emotions or they would cause you to suffer forever. So you're not talking about me, you're talking about the reality, I think, of being angry at your parents, if that makes sense. Okay, I'll end speech and you can tell me if that makes any sense or if it's wrong or what.
Can you repeat what you're asking me to respond to? Specifics?
Well, so the false dichotomy, which is, it's only a false dichotomy now. When you were a kid, okay, let me back up for a second. So I said it's important to process your anger, deal with your anger, and you said, no, I'm just going to suppress it, or I don't feel it, or it doesn't matter, or it's not relevant, or it's in the past, or I don't want to dwell it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry? Yeah. So
or I did it already.
You did it already, and so on, right?
Yeah.
But if you had done it already, you would not be provoking anger in those around you. Because that which we do not feel, but is actually occurring within us, we tend to provoke in others. So somebody who's secretly hostile will provoke hostility in others. Somebody who's secretly guilty will try to provoke guilt in others. And someone who's secretly angry will provoke frustration in others. And by secretly, I don't mean like you're hiding something, but you had a very strict, necessary process of not expressing anger. Because if you had expressed anger at your parents, they would have made your life hell. And so you had to suppress the anger, and to the point where you couldn't even feel it, because that's the best way to suppress it, is to hide it not just from your parents, but even from yourself.
Yeah, and I don't feel it now either, right?
Well, sure, but the way it comes out is you recreate it in others. So when you said to me, I either suppress it or I'm miserable forever or I'm upset forever. So what's the alternative? I'm just going to be upset forever? But that's from your childhood and in particular your teenage years, where with your parents, you either had to suppress your anger or they would make your life miserable forever. And maybe it also has to do with your sister, that you had to suppress your anger towards your sister or she would make your life miserable forever. And the forever part is a young person's view of the world. You know, like, I don't know if you've been around teenagers, but like, oh, I've been waiting forever, you know, when it's been like 10 minutes. And everything for a teenager is like, oh, forever, it's eternal. You know, if it's like, well, we won't be able to go till next week. Oh, that's going to take forever. You know, so that forever thing is, and of course, I'm not accusing you of being immature or anything like that, but those kinds of false dichotomies generally come out of a younger state of mind. And of course, you're a mature and grown and highly intelligent adult. And so those kinds of false dichotomies, my daughter jokes about this sometimes, you know, these sort of false dichotomies. Do this or just admit you don't even love me, you know, something silly like that, right? And it's funny, right? But when you kind of heap scorn on a line of questioning that I think is important, and then when you present false dichotomies, which is, well, I mean, if I don't suppress these emotions, I'll just be miserable forever, then you are making it kind of impossible to help you. Now, what that means, so again, the feelings that we don't experience, but we have, we generally tend to provoke in others. So what you provoke in me is, to some degree, anger, to some degree, sympathy, but also helplessness. And I think this is something that your wife is feeling. Don't you feel sometimes a little helpless in communication? Because it just goes round and round, and it's like a
Yes.
maze with no exit. So tell me a little bit about that. And listen, I'm sorry to your husband. I'm not trying to throw you under the bus and gang up on you or anything like that. But I'm
It's
just
okay.
curious
It's
if
okay.
she's had the same experience. So sorry, go ahead.
I'm sure she has.
Yes. Yes. Exactly same. Helpless. Yes. Yeah. It's kind of war. I cannot go through. He cannot see through. He cannot listen through. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
kind of
What is that middle in between those, in between that false dichotomy? What is that middle that I can see? And,
is that because he grew up like that, had made up because of his experience, or he have no DNA, no cell, born that way? I have
Sorry,
no
you said no DNA and no what? Self?
just
cell, CELL.
cell.
Oh,
My
cell. Okay.
biology is,
Biologically, no DNA.
Well, I mean, let me give you sort of an extreme example that may help see it, at least the way that I see it, which doesn't mean that it's right. So if your husband had grown up in a crime family, like the Mafia, right? Then he would have been commanded from the very beginning of his life to never speak of the family's business.
Oh,
And
yes.
if he spoke of the family's business, what would happen?
He will be killed.
Yeah, he would be killed, or his family would be killed. You do not, it's called omerta, the vow of silence that the Mafia has.
Oh,
And for the rest of his life,
oh,
because this would be the first 20 years of his life before he had any independence at all, that he lived under the threat of death if he talked about the family secrets. Now, let's further imagine that half of his classmates worked for the police and were constantly trying to get the family secrets out of him. Let's say there was a reward, or some young-looking FBI agents were in the school constantly trying to befriend him and talk to him to get him to talk about the family's crime activities. But if he did talk about them, his entire family would be killed, or he would be killed, or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, that's pretty stressful. Now,
Yeah.
if he had to do that, and this is just high school, right? But if he had to do that from the age of 5 to the age of 20, which are hugely formative years, or let's say it started even earlier, so the maze would be, well, he can't say, I'm not part of that crime family, right? He's going to become an expert in not answering questions.
Oh.
Because he lives under threat. Either his parents go to jail, or he gets killed, or something terrible is going to happen. He lives under threat. So he becomes an expert at stonewalling, right? And I say this with great sympathy and no condemnation, with great sympathy. You become an expert at keeping secrets, at
To
not
survive.
answering questions. I mean, does that resonate with you at all? That's to your husband?
Oh. It's very hard.
you're asking if it resonates to me
Yes,
or her?
to you.
I'm certainly, I don't know if I'd consider the word expert, but I'm certainly adept at trying to be normal, which is work, but needed to fit in with everybody else.
But don't know what to do.
Yeah, but in this case, don't know what normal even looks like. I can put on a happy face in a party and try to hide my discomfort, but in this case of these issues with my wife, I don't know what that mode is.
Okay, let me ask you this. when you were a teenager, did you ever complain to your friends about how cold and cruel your parents were?
I had my best friend's dad was pretty rotten, and we talked about my dad and his mom getting together and getting rid of these two bad ones, but that's about the extent of it. So not much.
Not much.
Not really,
Not
right?
detail.
Yeah.
So you had great suffering that you had to keep secret.
Yeah.
So that's omerta. That's the code of silence.
Yeah. And at some point, I don't even know if I looked at it that way because I didn't have a comparative thing. So to me, this is just the way life was. A little bit.
Oh.
Sorry, I thought your wife was about to say something. I didn't want to interrupt. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. It's okay. He thinks that is the natural, that is the normal, everybody living it that way. You mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, as a kid, you don't necessarily, you've talked about having a rich friend that made it obvious that there was a better family out there. I don't know if I saw that much, right? So as a result, it just was the way it is every day. So just get used to it, kind of thing. This is the way life works.
Well, but it's not.
I
It's
know,
just the way
I
your
know that
family
now,
was.
but I just saying as a kid,
It's not.
that's
Yeah.
what I kind of perceived.
Well, and the silence came from where? Why were you silent about the coldness and cruelty in your family?
I mean, why didn't I talk to others?
Yeah.
Because there weren't really others to talk to. I was, pretty. I didn't have lots of friends just because I think my disposition wasn't that compatible. And nobody really, seemed like they wanted to know much. So I was, and as a kid, you're just trying to fit in and not bring up, negative stuff because you want to fit in.
Well, that's circular reasoning, though, which is to say, well, I didn't have that many friends, but if you're keeping a secret and faking a lot of stuff, you can't have friends, right?
Well, I didn't know that as a kid.
I understand that, but it's still a fact.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you say, well, I didn't have that many people to talk to, that's why I kept these secrets, that doesn't answer the question, though, because the reason why you weren't close to people is you had too many secrets to keep.
Oh, I'm not sure if at the time, and again, I'm trying to think back when I was a kid. I don't remember thinking I had secrets.
I know, I get that.
No.
But that's
Yeah.
part of the suppression. Because if you
Yeah.
say, like, you cannot express the cruelty in your family, and the best way to do that is to not think they're cruel, to not think you have any secrets. So I don't know
Oh
if you've
no,
ever. Sorry, go ahead.
I thought they were cruel. In
Oh,
that
okay. So
respect. I
then,
was out.
so you were keeping secrets.
Well, I didn't think anybody wanted to know. Right? It's like, let's say I have an interest right now in, I don't know, libertarianism, and I'm going to talk to people about it.
Right.
But I recognize they don't really want to hear about libertarianism. I'm not that unaware that.
Sorry, how do you know people?
Why would I yap on
hang
about something to people they don't want to listen to?
How?
Oh,
So,
okay.
but no, but that's like your mother saying, prejudging that she's not interested in your car. How do you know people? I mean, I've built a whole online presence talking about libertarianism. People are fascinated by it. How do you know?
I know because I've talked about it and seen the results.
Well, but you are distant from people because you're still keeping secrets.
Okay.
So one of the reasons that I'm an effective communicator, not to pat myself on the back too much, is that I really don't have any secrets left.
Okay.
I've told everything to everyone.
Yeah.
For all time. And so I'm quite accessible to people because I don't have any secrets to keep.
So do you think then, like if I told my best friend, hey, all these troubles you've had for me and communicating with me and understanding me all these years, this is some of the reason why, he'd want to listen?
See the way you carry. Hey, do you want to like you're putting it like if I were to say, I wrote this song. It's like yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. What do you think? Is it a good song? You'd say, well, no, it sounds terrible because the way you're presenting it is terrible. Hey, all of the like if you give this jovial nonsense way of communicating, as opposed to, I've been thinking about our friendship over the years. I think I've been really difficult to read. I think I've been really complicated to communicate with. And I think one of the reasons is I'm keeping some pretty important secrets about difficulties I had when I was younger. Do you not think he would be interested in that? As opposed to, hey, you know why I've been tough to talk to? That's just a way of making sure that people are alienated by the topic.
Well, I don't know. He doesn't like talking about controversial stuff.
Well, that's because you chose him for that. Then you chose him for that. So then you would choose different friends and be more honest with them. Like, let's say that you and I had met. Let's just say you and I meet at a dinner party, and the topic turns to childhood, as it sometimes does. And I said, how was your childhood? What would you say?
Let me think. I certainly probably wouldn't go into some of the more
See, you're already censoring.
negative details.
You're already censoring. Oh, what would I say?
I would censor.
Okay, so
right?
don't censor.
Yeah.
Why are you censoring?
Okay.
It was all so long ago, it doesn't matter, you say. Why would you censor?
Because people, to be accepted, don't want to hear uncomfortable things.
Oh, so are you saying that I could never develop an online presence talking about uncomfortable things?
No, but that's different than you meet random people and the first thing you're going to talk about is something that's uncomfortable.
Well, you said, hang on, you said it's all so long ago, it doesn't matter, so why is it uncomfortable?
No, not uncomfortable for me to say it. It's uncomfortable for other people don't like hearing uncomfortable things about other people's past in general.
It's your assumption.
Yes, it is my assumption.
It's not true, though. Dr. Phil is hugely popular. Half of movies are about uncomfortable things. Horror movies are about uncomfortable things. People are fascinated by uncomfortable things. People like to hear about difficult things. People have a lot more sympathy than you think. It's your parents who didn't care. The world is not your parents. So, we're at a dinner party. Hey, nice to meet you. Oh, we were just talking about childhoods. I had it kind of rough in many ways. I've already talked about it. What was your childhood like?
Okay, but that's a little bit different. In other words, they've already opened the door.
But that was my original thing. The original thing I said was the topic of childhood comes up, as it often does, or as it sometimes does. Okay. So the topic's already there. You're not just marching in and saying, let me tell you all about my childhood, but so the topic is there. And I turn to you and I say, what was your childhood like?
Yeah. Well, not too great. My mom didn't care much for me. My dad was indifferent. I would start with that, see what the response would be, and then maybe go on from there.
Now, you talk about it with all the emotionality of Alexa reporting the weather.
Yes.
So why? Why would you be so disconnected from something that was a very vivid and real experience for you? I mean, if you'd been in war 20 years ago, you wouldn't be like, yeah, shot some guys shot at me, right? It would just it would be like, why skate so much on the surface about something?
Because not knowing how deeply or involved somebody really wants to be. For instance, we met a guy that he was in the Vietnam War and his job was to go, after the war, go bring back the dead bodies. It was obvious he didn't want to talk about that at all, even though from my perspective, it was incredibly interesting and maybe he wanted, he could share an interesting story, but he didn't want to talk about it. And so,
well, but of course, that's different from childhood because he chose to do that job, or maybe he was drafted. I don't know. But what's tough? What's tough about talking to people about your childhood? It shouldn't be tough if it's all resolved.
I guess maybe it's just the fact that I don't think people are interested.
But you're calling me.
That's my initial prejudice, is because they're not interested. because nobody was interested in the past. So why would all of a sudden people change and want to be interested?
Sorry, because nobody was interested in the past? What do you mean?
Yeah, nobody was interested in the past and
Oh, you
learning
mean in
about
your past?
Yeah, in my past, about learning,
Okay, so you're
about
judging everyone by your parents.
I'm judging everybody by my experience after my parents, that nobody really wants to know that kind of detail about
Well,
me.
I don't know about that because I don't know that you have honestly tried to talk to friends about what you experienced as a child and as a teenager
Right.
and as a young
Your
man.
feeling.
Right.
So you're prejudging that the entire world is going to be as indifferent to you as your parents were. That's
Maybe.
not fair, is it? That's saying that your parents are the essence of humanity and everyone's like them. My God, no wonder you're ruminating. You're completely surrounded by predatory, cold, asshole people. Because in your mind, they're all like your parents. How could you possibly relax? This is where your insomnia comes from. You're like a baby zebra in a land of lions. How could you relax? How could you sleep?
Yeah, I feel like well, nobody wants to hear it.
But now your parents didn't want to hear it, right? We got that in the role play.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
why would you say? I mean, if I said all women are like my mother, would I be married?
Yeah.
So you are and listen, I sympathize. This is how, and of course, for most of our evolution, people were just like our parents. You live in a tribe of 50 or 60 people, everyone's kind of the same, right?
Right.
But to judge everyone as if they are as indifferent and self-absorbed and cold and hostile and narcissistic as your parents is to live in a pretty frightening universe, isn't it?
Yes.
That they never die, they just multiply.
Yes.
Well, it certainly perpetuates, the lonely feeling way into my adulthood. And my wife is the only one that, showed an interest. So that relieved me of that feeling. So, yes, I agree.
Yes, but now you're pushing her away too.
Exactly. So that's
Yeah.
why I
So
called.
the world is not your parents.
Yeah.
That's good
Your
words.
parents, and listen, I've been doing this for well over 20 years. And for decades before that, just socially. Your parents were extreme outliers in coldness and cruelty and narcissism. Extreme outliers. To have a child working for 3 years on a project and never once fucking asking him what he's doing is insane.
Exactly.
That is absolutely ice planet selfish narcissism beyond almost anything I've ever heard about. Your parents were extreme outliers, and you had to live in that frozen planet of dead hearts and try and find a way to stay alive and keep your humanity. That is an incredibly difficult thing to do. You've done a magnificent job. Like all of us, it's never quite over. But it's like if you were raised by serial killers and you thought everyone was kind of like a serial killer, it'd be pretty fucking tough to relax, wouldn't it? They were extreme, brother. I've never heard of a 3-year project from a child being completely ignored by their parents. Can you imagine doing that to a child of yours?
No.
My daughter made these animated movies. I got all our friends together. We did the voices. We did the acting. We, brought them to life as best we could. I mean, bro, you grew up on an ice planet.
Yes.
That is beyond cold. That is, you know what that is? That is murderous iciness. That is soul murder. That is, you don't get to have any fucking say in our hearts. We do what we fucking want, and you live on nothing. And if you come to ask us for anything, we will fuck you up. That is brutally selfish, sadistic, and cold. It's like if you have a dog, like you get a dog, and the dog is desperate for your attention, and you lock it in the basement. You're just a dog torturer. They are child torturers, brother. to have a child, to keep a child, and to deny every single legitimate emotional need of that child. Children are desperate for company. They're desperate for approval. They're desperate for connection with their parents, because through the connection with the parents comes security, safety, to be comforted, to not be, it seems to me that you are in a fairly perpetual state of fight or flight because you were raised in extreme danger by some very, very dangerous and cold-hearted people. So it's the rumination, the minor obsessions, the sleeplessness. These are all, and it's going to burn you out. Like your cortisol spikes, your adrenals, like it's an exhausting place. I mean, you're tired a lot, right? And that perpetual state of fight or flight, anger protects us from that. Anger gets the bad people out of our life so that we're safe and secure. And then we can relax. And to imagine, and it's not a fantasy at all, it is a perfectly healthy adaptation for almost all of our human evolution to assume that everyone is like our parents. Because when we evolved, it wasn't like there was a big variety of personalities in some small tribe in Gaul or something like that. So everyone would be like your parents, but it's not the case now. Now we can actually choose our tribe, we can choose our friends, we can choose our environment, and we can choose better because you didn't choose as a child. So the secrets were necessary so that your parents didn't attack you. Because can you imagine if your parents, if you talked to a friend of yours, your friend talked to his parents, and his parents came to your house and said, what is going on in this household? The things I hear are incredibly disturbing. Your child is getting almost no attention. He's had a project in the basement for 3 years and no one's even asked him about it. What is going on in this household? This is almost criminal. I mean, your parents would have reacted with extreme rage. They may have been icily polite at the time, but they would have fucked up your shit afterwards. Am I wrong? Your sister's,
Perhaps, yeah.
Your sister's status seeking doesn't come from nowhere. Your parents were status seekers, I assume.
Yes.
And you didn't serve their status, so fuck you, go to the basement. I assume your sister did serve their status because she was, as you said, I love what your wife said, not that she was popular, she was famous. I think that's a great way to put it. Because it is, in high school, you're a movie star if you're a top tier female in particular. And so your sister served their status, so they were more positive towards her. And your sister is still screwing with your status as she did when she met your wife. So you grew up among a bunch of selfish, predatory, dangerous, selfish people who have zero capacity to connect with human beings at any emotional level. And that is a horrible, horrible, brutal situation to experience. And there's nothing that I want more from you. Take. See, everyone takes, and here I am taking. No, but there's nothing that I want more for you for the rest of your life. You've still got decades and decades on the planet than to take a deep breath, recognize you were raised by evildoers. They're gone. A woman who loves you is here. Lower your guard. Relax.
Don't keep secret.
I'm sorry?
Speak your emotion. Speak his emotion.
Yeah, be open, be vulnerable. People care. You'll see this. You'll see this when the show gets published. You'll see people are like, big hugs, brother. I'm so sorry. I went through something similar. People care. I mean, there are bad people in the world. I get it, but there are lots of people who genuinely care, and it's hard to fathom that when you've been raised in such icy cruelty. I'm sorry, I've rambled on. So tell me what you guys think.
So yeah, I'm pretty agree on your opinion. People care, and they will give you some comfort. I have many kinds of experience from stranger comfort, and they will forget. Don't worry, they will not remember you forever. Maybe that dinner time. Yeah. So he has a trait that he just said fact, but he have no adjective to describe his emotion or something like that.
Yeah, because facts can't get you in trouble and you can't really be rejected for facts. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So that's why I figured out when he meets somebody stranger or something, or even this best friend for decades, but They're always speaking. There's no emotion talking. There is a fact. I went there. I did this. I eat that. I like it. Something like that. There is no, I was frustrated or I have a hard time because of this. They don't have that kind of dialogue. Especially him with he's talking with a stranger. He just talking fact. I went to Korea, I went to America, I went to Africa, something like fact, something like that. And after this fact all gone, the topic is gone. So it's silence, something like that going on.
Well, and again, if we go back to the young man raised in the Mafia, he could say, I live on this street at this address.
Yeah.
He could give facts. Oxygen is this particular set of atoms, and carbon dioxide is a carbon, and right. So he can give facts. New York, the place so nice they named it twice. It's a fact, So you can give facts, but giving of yourself and of your heart is very scary because, of course, also your parents absolutely knew that you needed connection and they withheld it for you out of cruelty. In the same way that if I don't feed my dog, I'm doing it because I'm cruel.
Oh.
And so there's a sadism in that. To have a child and keep a child and then deny to that child all of the desperately needed emotional connection and safety and security. Children, in order to regulate their emotional system, need connection, love, safety, and security from their parents. Because children are exquisitely vulnerable in the world. I don't know if you've ever seen these videos that people take them at the zoo sometimes when there's a glass barrier between the lions and the little toddlers. And what do the lions do? They creep up and they try and eat the toddlers. No, they get blocked by the glass, right? They just pour at the glass because they can't, but they're sneaking. So in the wild, babies and toddlers simply cannot even remotely survive at all. And so they need the affection and connection with their parents in order to relax. And everything that you've talked about, and again, I say this with great and deep sympathy, everything that you've talked about strikes me as, again, that permanent fight or flight mechanism. That you did not have the love to cool your jets. And you obviously have a great, active, powerful mind, which combined with constant fight or flight triggering from a lack of security almost has become a predator that you have to escape. And as you have gained, I think, more security with your wife, you are reacting to her as if she's going to turn on you. There's the knock at the door, Avon calling, or it's somebody saying, Avon calling. And you're like, I don't believe you. I'm not opening this door. It's a trick. You're going to get in and rob me blind. And I think I experienced that when talking about your past, that you're trying to make me suffer forever. Like, if I listen to you, Steph, you're going to make me upset or suffer forever. And this idea that people who are trying to help you are actually trying to hurt you is a pretty early and powerful notion, which a lot of people who've experienced this kind of cruel isolation. I mean, this is more than neglect. I mean, 3 years working on a project is staggering, with your parents never even asking you what the hell you're doing. That's beyond cruel. That is absolutely, in my view, absolutely sadistic. And makes you feel like nothing. And makes you feel absolutely unprotected. And it's almost like you were spending 3 years building a getaway car. To just get and go and be gone. And to feel ignored, unprotected, unloved, and untreasured is terrifying for children. And it is very hard to let that vigilance, hypervigilance, they call it, it's very hard to let that go. Because without anger, to get angry at having been mistreated is the best way to ensure that those who remain in our lives treat us well. And you have been mistreated, and even recently, right? Not that recently, but when your sister met your wife and put you down, or thought she was putting you down, I'm sure you, as the wife, looked at that like, well, I mean, a little extreme, but I can understand him not wanting to get his parents arrested. And also what would have happened if the parents had found that there were drugs in the house or something like that, right? So he was, but even that reaction of chasing out people with a BB gun is an act of very heightened fight or flight. This time on the fight
Yes.
side, right?
Oh.
And so
was.
that level of fear and anxiety is very, very hard to let go of.
Yeah,
But if you
anxiety.
do let go of it, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but this level of stress can take years off your life. And of course, the stress also of conflict with a woman who obviously cares a great deal for you and loves you to death and, wants to connect. And so she can't feel secure if you're not connected with her.
Yes, I feel insecure.
And it also
That
has
is
an effect, to be perfectly blunt, and maybe that does, maybe it doesn't. But generally, if the woman does not feel secure, it's very hard to have a great sex life.
yes.
Because a woman's sexuality tends to become at its most expressed when she feels safe and secure and protected. I'm so sorry, you were going to say.
Well, I was going to say, my number one motivation for calling you is that I want her to feel secure in us.
For me.
Yeah, I want you to feel secure in us. Yeah,
Right.
in me.
Well, and she's going to get that when you stop judging the world as your parents. And again, I know that sounds like, of course you know that the world is not your parents. I get that. But we're talking about emotional tracks laying down before you were even conscious. Babies know when their eye contact is made with them. And babies that don't receive eye contact, their cortisol level spikes. Babies that don't receive comforting touch stay in a perpetual state of fight or flight because they are preparing for a highly dangerous universe. I mean, I went through this process when I was sort of trying to cool my own fight or flight mechanism. I'd do an hour and a half of Ashtanga yoga. I would go for an hour and a half aromatherapy massage just to get, grounded, positive touch, just to cool the parasympathetic nervous system that was constantly activated and making me jumpy and aggressive and defensive and avoidant. Impossible to pin down, impossible to directly communicate with. Feel like people would try and communicate with me, they'd get lost in a maze and then just give up exhausted. And I think I had somehow protected myself. And in a way I had, but I'd also protected myself from being loved as well, which was too high a price to pay. And I, in the end, I just didn't want my parents to win. Like, how dare they own my brain from birth to grave? That's not right.
No.
So, I will say something. Hopefully, you take it respectfully. But what was my original question? What tools can I use? What can I do to change this so that I don't generate this response in Kim?
I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I've been talking about the whole time. Get genuinely angry at your parents, which will then denormalize. See, if you're not angry at your parents, then you think everyone is your parents. So, and I'll give you an example. So, if there are sharks in the water, does it make any sense to get angry at a particular shark, one shark?
No.
No. Does it make any sense to be only afraid of one shark and go and pet all the others?
No.
No.
No. Okay.
So getting angry means that your parents are accepted as outliers. Like, I don't get angry at my parents for aging. I haven't gotten angry at my father for dying because everyone ages and dies. So anger says it's an outlier. I don't get angry at gravity every morning. Damn it, why can't I fly? Because that would be the mark of a crazy person. So we get angry at the outliers, at the exceptions, at the exceptional injustice. And that tells our body, it tells our whole nervous system that that is a fucked up extremity. And that tells your nervous system, not everyone is like that. We get angry at the people who harm us extremely or in an extreme fashion. And that tells our body that that's an outlier, that tells our whole nervous system that that is a vast outlier. So when we talked earlier about people who get really angry and stay angry because someone cut them off on the road. Well, listen, being cut off on the road is a pretty common occurrence. Like, it happens at least once or twice a week. Usually some guy cuts you off, or, doesn't come to a full stop, or they signal, but they're not actually turning, that kind of stuff. So that's not a huge outlier. It's something we need to be cautious of and aware of course, but it's not some huge, massive outlier. However, what you experienced as a child, my friend, an absolutely catastrophic outlier and a wild injustice. So, the kids who say, if somebody were to call me up and say, Steph, I'm 60 years old, I'm enraged that my parents didn't let me have all the candy I wanted when I was a kid, what would I say?
They were trying to protect you from bad health consequences.
Sure. But would I say that that was a reasonable and just emotion?
Oh, no.
No, because parents should not let their children have all the candy that they want, because it will harm their health, their teeth, diabetes, fat, give them a whole lifetime of struggles, right? So if somebody were to call me up and say, I'm angry that my parents didn't let me eat all the candy I wanted, I would say, well, let's talk about that. Maybe it's covering up something else, but that's not a healthy reason to be angry, right?
Right.
Or if somebody were to call me up and say, you know what, Steph, I'm 70 years old, and my wife is 70 as well, and I'm enraged at her for not looking as good as she did when she was 20. What would I say?
Unrealistic expectations. You don't look that way either.
Well, the only way to solve that would be put her in a giant jar of formaldehyde when she was 20, in which case she'd look the same, but sex would be a little awkward.
Right.
So that'd be necrophilia, I think, at that point. So there are things that people can get upset at, which would be in the course of the normal events of life. People are going to cut you off. Gravity is there. You're going to age, whatever it is, right? You and your wife and me and my wife don't look as good as we did when we're 20. So fine. We can live with that. And to get enraged about those things would be immature, because they're part of the normal course of life. The way that your parents treated you, the coldness, the selfishness, the cruelty, the narcissism, the absolute catastrophic, horrifying indifference to your entire existence is not like being cut off. It's not like gravity, and it's not like aging. It's fucked up beyond words. So we have the right, and we have, in a sense, the necessity to be angry at extreme injustice and violence and coldness. They harmed your body. They harmed your body and put you in a permanent state of fight or flight, in my opinion. And they harmed your body more than if they'd beaten the shit out of you repeatedly with a belt. Because at least that would be gone, and it wouldn't be fully internalized. And you'd say, well, at least the belt stuff is gone, and it would die out. And you can get bigger and stronger enough to threaten them back if you wanted. This is why I put neglect as the worst form of abuse except for sexual abuse. Because it rewires your brain. Because you are in a permanent state of vulnerable, naked in the wilderness, howls and growls in the bushes vulnerability. And you're full of secrets. And you are isolated by that. And anyone who gets close to you is a great danger. So the reason why I focused on the anger is because I want you to suffer for eternity. No, I'm just kidding. Right? So the reason that I focused on the anger is because we get angry at the outliers, and that tells our nervous system that it's an outlier and that it's not everyone. Everyone ages. You can't get mad at that rationally. But not everyone ignores their children and harms their children to this degree. In fact, it's extraordinarily rare. And I hope I have some credibility because, again, I've been doing this for decades and I've heard thousands and thousands of these stories. This is a crazy outlier, man. This is an evil outlier. And the moment you get angry at it as an evil outlier is the moment you can stop treating everyone like they're your parents.
That is the answer.
You think I treat you like my parents?
Little bit.
You treat her
Little
with
bit.
suspicion. You treat her as if she has negative interest for you at heart in the same way, and I say this without offense, please understand, I simply say this to identify, without offense, without upset. You treated me as if I had some sort of malintent. In other words, I was trying to get you to ruminate on things that you couldn't change, and I was going to make you suffer forever. So, and again, I say this with great sympathy and zero offense at all. In fact, I'm glad you did that. It was very instructive and very helpful. But you treat people as if they're trying to harm you. And
I feel that way.
yeah, you're trying to help him. And, you know, like if you've ever been around a dog that's been severely abused and you try and pet the dog, what does it do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have been. We worked at an animal shelter, so I know that very well.
Yeah, you try to pet the dog that's been abused. What does it do?
Yeah.
Yeah. He would just back off into the corner as much as he could and shiver, and he didn't bite because I guess he got hit when he was bit before, but he would just be incredibly scared.
Right. So that's the flight part. And some dogs, if they've been abused, will bite you
Right.
if you try to pet
Right.
them.
Yeah.
So that's the fight or the flight.
Right.
And what you say, I'm so sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
No, I think he's not showing, appearance like that way, but his inside is like a shivering, be tortured dog.
Well, but also there's aggression
nervous.
too, right? So there's a fight and the flight. And again, I
Yeah.
say this with no criticism and with great and deep, I wish I could give you a big old hug, great and deep sympathy. But there are people in the world who are genuinely trying to help you. And because you're not angry with your parents, you can't differentiate them. In the same way that the dog, and I hate comparing you to a dog because,
Okay.
it's not, I know we all love dogs here and all of that. But when you reach out to pet a dog and the dog treats you as if you're trying to hit it and you say, no, I'm here to help. I'm here to pet you. I'm here to comfort you. Right? I mean, it's really tough.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't know that.
They don't know that, right? And the reason, and I, again, obviously we're talking about our deep nervous system, which we share with animals, and which, of course, our higher brain is built on top of this sort of shaky infrastructure of early mammal stuff, and we have the fight or flight stuff, and we share a lot of that stuff with dogs. I mean, actually, I like being compared to a dog because dogs are great, very loyal and very affectionate and very helpful. But the reason that the anger is important is it denormalizes things. It says that your parents were an extreme outlier, not common at all. And therefore, it's good to be angry at them because very few people are like them. But if you're not angry at them, part of your body says, everything's like them, everyone's like them. And when your parents were trying to get information out of you, what were they doing it for? I'm sure they did at times try to get information out of you. And what were they doing it for?
To gain some advantage somehow.
Yep.
Whether,
control you.
Yeah, the cop who's like, hey, man, I'm just here to help you. Just tell me what happened.
Right.
I'm on your side. And then, clang, you're in jail, right?
Right.
And so when people are trying to get information out of you, there's this phrase they use in courtroom dramas, and I almost felt this earlier. Permission to treat the witness as a hostile witness. You ever heard that?
Yes.
I mean, it was kind of like that. And again, I say this with great affection. I'm really glad we're having the conversation. But you treat people, I think, who are trying to get information out you as if they're trying to put you in jail. Like, you can't ever talk to the cops without a lawyer. And it's like, and again, it's like the kid from the Mafia. It's like people are trying to get information out of him so they can go and get the reward from the police or something, right? And so because your parents were trying to get information out of you in order to harm or control or undermine you in some manner, and I'm sure your sister did the same thing, Like the siblings who say, which one of these is your favorite book? And you say, oh, I absolutely love that one. And that's the one they rip up. So they just asked you so they could harm you more, right? So then you pretty quickly learn not to give out any information, right?
Oh. But his sister is good at get some information from him.
Sure,
Every
because she
time.
knows that you want to be close to your sister. She's the last remaining family member, except for your father, who I think you said was 90. So yeah, because she knows.
She speaks everything.
Yeah, she knows what you want. She knows what you need. And man, siblings can play us like an accordion. I know this myself. So. So as far as strategies go, yeah, I'm sorry, it's emotional work. All the stuff that you don't like. But, if it was stuff you liked, you wouldn't need to call me, right? Because you already would have done it, right?
Right. So the emotional work you would describe as acceptance of my anger, and that's a question mark.
Yeah, I have got that. I didn't want to interrupt if you had something else to add. Yeah, so it is, I think, talking to your wife in particular, and I absolutely know she seems like a lovely person. I absolutely know she would be happy to hear, all the things that you felt and thought as a younger person, and the distance that you feel, and just talk. And, if you cry, you cry. And if you're angry. All of that is perfectly healthy. A genuine grieving process, because grieving is saying it's not going to be forever. That's what grieving is, right? Grieving is, like if you're sad that your dog died, it's not like you're going to be sad forever. You're just saying that you're sad now and it's going to end. And I think, if you've ever thought about talk therapy can be helpful with these. It certainly was for me. I mean, I don't know if you'll need that or not. I can't make that determination, but it should be possibly on the table. And work as hard as you can to try and find a way to lower the fight or flight. And whether that's, I found massage, yoga, that kind of stuff, physical. I stretch every day and I exercise, and I'm sure you both seem very fit and all of that. But whatever you can do to just start to calm your nervous system down, and to recognize that your parents are like 1 in 100,000 or 1 in 10,000 people. That much of an outlier. And
so you can
very
be
few
angry.
people are like that.
Okay.
You will probably never again in the rest of your life meet anybody as cold as your parents, ever. I mean, unless you're a prison warden.
Yes, you have a right to angry, right? And he, just like Stefan, the beginning of talk to you, you are dwelling on with parents till now. It affects you. It's true. Maybe you want to deny, but
well, I think that your nervous system is seeing them kind of everywhere, or is concerned that they're still sort of in people, because the way that we denormalize bad parents is we say, well, that's just kind of human nature, or that's just the way people are, but then they're everywhere, right? If I said, well, my mother is just female nature, she was just more honest about it, then I would see my mother in every female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're onto something there, because when I think back on it, oftentimes I view people and give them reasons in my mind as to why they won't hang out with me again, or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So yeah, I think just stay in conversation, journaling stuff. I found writing stuff down about my childhood, even if all you do is burn it, and just to really re-inhabit and remember, it was very sad, it was very lonely, it was very enraging when people don't deliver the things. I don't know if you've ever ordered something, paid for it, and it's not been delivered. It's kind of annoying, right? In fact, it could be angering. I even have ill temper sometimes when I'm hungry and I have to wait too long at a restaurant. Sometimes it's 45 minutes to get your food, and I'm just like, where's the food? and all of that. So when you expect things and you are owed things and they're not delivered, it can be angering as well as saddening. And you are owed love and care and connection and hugs and security and being treasured and being the center of your parents' world and the apple of their eye. And you got none of that. You got the reverse. And that's very
None
painful.
of them.
All right. Is that a reasonable
Okay.
place to stop? Are you doing okay? I mean,
yes, it is, sir. It was helpful, and I read your Peaceful Parenting book. If I can change the subject just for a moment, and I've given it to my nieces and nephews that have kids. But I think I heard you refer to you're making a movie or a documentary about it, because I'm looking for a more accessible way to give it to people that won't necessarily read a book. And
yeah.
also,
I mean, I know it's the documentary at the moment is on UPB, My Theory of Ethics, but I've certainly heard that from
okay,
people that I would like to do a documentary on peaceful parenting. I sort of have to
okay,
assess the sort of physical risks of being out in the world again, because it was pretty
yeah,
dangerous. Yeah, it was pretty dangerous last
sure.
time. So, but I think it would be great to interview people and get the facts out in a more accessible way.
Because I'm also, I live someplace now where I don't speak the language, and so to present it to these people, I just needed I was thinking, certainly translating your short form book is something I can do. But I was, looking for an easier way to, get the essence of the content to people.
Right.
So because I think it's a very important work. Okay, I think you can understand why I think that.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I will certainly put that on the vote for a peaceful parenting documentary, which I could possibly get into after I finish this one.
Right, or even just, a concise flyer or a two-pager, or an introduction that I could give or translate to get people focused in that direction a little more.
Okay,
So,
I will definitely think about that, and I will get in touch with
okay,
you with what I come up with.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you, Stefan, for taking the time to listen to us today.
Thank you,
Oh,
sir.
my absolute pleasure, and my big hugs, and I really do appreciate the fact that you're willing to throw your trust my way, and it really means the world to me, and I hope you'll stay in touch.
Yes,
Yeah.
all
All the
righty.
best. Bye
He's
bye.
listening every day, your podcast.
Thank you. Take care. Good night, guys.
And donating once a year for a big chunk, so
Appreciate that too.
enjoy.
Take care. Bye bye.
All righty. Bye-bye.